Welcome to Higher Ground, the show for job seekers where we give you hope and help behind the headlines. I'm Claire Wasserman, coach and author of Ladies Get Paid, and I'm so glad you're here. Today's episode, we are covering 3 things that are going to make you think differently about your career. Everyone's freaking out about AI taking jobs, but I'm going to show you the new careers that AI is actually creating and how to position yourself for them before anyone else catches on. Then I'm sitting down with Jillian Knowles, a certified executive coach and early careers talent strategist who's developed this incredible framework for sustaining your energy and well-being during the job search. Because let's be real, job searching can be absolutely soul-crushing, and most advice ignores the very real toll that it's taking on your mental health. And finally, I'm answering a question that so many of you have sent me. How do you connect with interviewers virtually when you feel like your magic gets lost through the screen? I've got specific strategies that will make you prefer Zoom over in-person interviews. Whether you're pivoting careers, dealing with AI anxiety, or just trying to nail your next virtual interview, this episode is going to give you practical tools that you can use immediately. Let's dive in. Everyone's panicking about AI taking jobs. But here's what nobody's talking about. AI is about to create millions of brand new careers that don't even exist yet. I'm going to show you exactly what these jobs are and how to position yourself now for them before anyone else catches on. What's up, everyone? If you're worried about AI making your job obsolete, this video will completely change your perspective. The World Economic Forum has just predicted that while AI will displace 9 million jobs by 2030, it's also going to create 11 million new ones. So today, we are breaking down the 3 massive categories where these opportunities will emerge and your exact plan to capitalize on them. First, let's get something straight. AI isn't just destroying jobs, it's fundamentally reshaping how work gets done. Think of it like the internet revolution. Yes, it killed some industries, but it also created entirely new ones we couldn't even imagine before. Now, the job titles I'm about to share aren't necessarily posted on Indeed yet. These are emerging roles that experts predict will become essential as AI adoption accelerates. Think of them as your preview to what's coming. AI can handle tasks, but humans are still needed for responsibility, relationships, and creative judgment. While AI can write a legal document, someone still needs to be legally accountable for it. And while AI can generate a marketing campaign, someone needs to decide if it's actually good. This creates 3 massive opportunity areas: trust, integration, and taste. Let's start with trust jobs. These are roles where humans provide accountability that AI simply cannot. So think of this like a financial auditor, but for AI systems. You'll investigate what AI is doing, why it made certain decisions, and document everything for legal and compliance purposes. Every major accounting firm will offer this service within 5 years. Trust authenticator. Your job is fact-checking and verifying AI-generated content. Legal documents, research reports, product specs, all will be written by AI, but humans need to catch the weird mistakes that AI makes. AI ethics officer. You build the logical frameworks to justify AI decisions to investors, customers, and even courts. This isn't just philosophy, it's about creating defensible reasoning claims. Legal guarantor. When AI designs a house or writes a contract, a certified human still needs to sign off and take legal responsibility. You become kind of the sin eater for AI, the final stop in the accountability chain. Good luck. Your action step here is to start building expertise in compliance, risk management, or audit functions in your current industry. I suggest taking courses on AI ethics and begin understanding how AI systems make decisions. I've got more specific recommendations of courses and resources in the comments below. Now let's talk about integration jobs. These are jobs that are all about bridging the gap between AI's capabilities and business needs. In AI Integrator, you figure out exactly how a company should use AI and then implement it. So when a CEO says, quote, "We're investing in AI," you're the one who determines whether that means automating billing, screening employees, or workflow optimization. AI plumber. When AI systems break, and they will, you're the one who digs through the entire network to find out what went wrong and fix it. As AI becomes more autonomous, these systems get incredibly complex. You're needed. AI trainer. You help AI find and digest your company's best data, then teach it to respond accurately. You're essentially the AI's personal coach. And finally, AI personality director. Every company's AI will need a personality that matches their brand. Are you helpful and friendly like Disney or direct and efficient like Amazon? This role shapes how millions of customers experience your company. So for these roles, your next action step is to learn the technical basics of how AI works. Take courses on machine learning fundamentals, but more importantly, become an expert in both AI capabilities and your industry's specific needs. The magic happens at the intersection. Check the description below for some recommended learning resources. And finally, category number 3, taste jobs. This is where it gets really exciting because taste jobs are about creative decision-making and vision. You know, the music producer, Rick Rubin, he doesn't play instruments or know how to work a soundboard, but he gets paid millions of dollars for his taste and ability to express what he feels. That is the future of work. So let's talk about a product designer in an expanded capacity. You won't just design, you'll own entire products from top to bottom, steering AI to create everything from user interfaces to marketing materials based on your vision. World designer, you'll create fictional universes for marketing campaigns or video games complete with characters and locations that AI then brings to life. Differentiation designer. When every financial firm has access to the same AI intelligence, how do they stand out? Through taste. How they communicate, show up to customers, and express their creative philosophy. And so the key insight here is that in a future where everyone has access to the same AI tools, having great taste becomes incredibly valuable. You're not competing on technical ability anymore. You're competing on vision and creative judgment. And so your action step for all these roles, well, it's to start developing and documenting your creative point of view. Build a portfolio that shows your ability to make bold, stylish choices. Practice giving creative direction and learn to articulate why certain approaches will resonate with certain audiences. So here's what you need to do right now. Pick one of these 3 categories that aligns with your strengths and interests. Are you naturally detail-oriented and risk-aware? If so, I would focus on trust jobs. Are you technical but business-minded? Go with integration. Or are you creative with strong opinions about what works? Taste is your lane. And then this month, start building out foundational AI literacy. Listen, you don't need to become a programmer, but you do need to understand how these systems work and what they can and cannot do. I've linked to specific courses and free resources in the description below. And in the next 90 days, begin positioning yourself as the bridge between AI and your current industry. If you are currently employed, for example, please start experimenting with AI tools in your current role. Volunteer for AI-related projects. Become the person that your company thinks of when they need someone who gets both technology and the business. And a pro tip here now for those who are currently employed, don't wait for these job titles to be posted. Go and create your own role. Look for AI-related gaps in your company and pitch solutions. Maybe your customer service AI is frustrating people. So propose an escalation protocol that you'd manage. Listen, maybe no one's even fact-checking AI-generated reports. Why don't you volunteer to pilot an audit process? Companies are hungry for people who can solve their AI problems, even if they don't know what to call the role yet. And for job seekers, position yourself as a hybrid. Instead of applying for just marketing manager, apply as marketing manager with AI integration expertise. Most companies know that they need AI help, but don't know exactly what that looks like yet. So be the person who shows them. And the biggest opportunity here is that most people are either ignoring AI or panicking about it. You're going to become fluent in it. So while everyone else is worrying about being replaced, you're becoming irreplaceable. Look, the AI revolution is happening whether we're ready or not. But here's the thing. Revolutions create more opportunities than they destroy for people who see them coming. So if this opened your eyes to the possibility, hit that like and subscribe button for more career strategy content and drop a comment telling me which category you're most excited about, trust, integration, or taste. The future belongs to people who can work with AI and not against it. So let's make sure that's you. Jillian Knowles, I'm so glad you're here, not only because you are a career coach, but you are a career coach that remembers we are more than just our careers. You do a lot of energetic type work as part of your coaching, and we're going to start by talking about well-being today, but I'm sure we will go in other directions. But beginning with that, job search is so freaking draining. The rejection, the uncertainty, the constant self promotion, even though I like to tell people it's service promotion, not self promotion. Either way, all of it can take a toll. So when I saw on your site that you have a framework that is called the energetic operating system, what does that mean? How do we get it? And how could we have gotten it yesterday? Thanks for being here.
Thank you for that beautiful intro. I'm so excited to be chatting. I'm so glad that we connected so rapidly and then jumped into this conversation and resonated so much with both of our areas of work, which is why I'm so excited for this conversation, because that's why I was vibing out on your LinkedIn content in the past couple of weeks. I
We
just
met
in
on
the first week.
LinkedIn. For all of
Yes.
my clients who are like, does LinkedIn work? Should I be posting? Yes, you can meet good people. This is the new age of networking. And so it would all start with you. I guess it started with my post, but you then were commenting and sharing. And I really appreciate that.
And it only started from my 18 months of solopreneurship, which was entrepreneurial isolation and the highs and lows of it. And I feel like LinkedIn was home at that point where I was making connections because I was isolated and living at home with my parents at 30 because I like bet on a big dream. So it was like LinkedIn connections where I genuinely have made friends and people that I root for constantly on LinkedIn. So I'm such a big advocate of LinkedIn. I know that people think LinkedIn is cringe or that it's all uber professional. And I'm like, guys, it's just a way to communicate and connect with people that like you have similar ideas with. Let's just be humans. And like it is.
It's interesting that I wanted to begin with how do you sustain your well being during the job search? And then we immediately go into LinkedIn. And I know people watching and listening are like, well, LinkedIn's where I lose my energy. So I don't know if you want to give some tips right off the bat on when somebody, whether it's the LinkedIn is the issue or not, if somebody is looking at the part of the job process as draining, how
Yeah.
might you counsel them to either see it in a different way, tackle it in a different way, or just accept that it sucks and recover with more grace as best as you can?
I love those options that you gave because I really think it's like the last one that hits. And I say it with like tough love and surrender that like it really does suck and we can recover and get through it and succeed succeed in it with grace. And I really mean that 10 toes down. I think what breaks my heart to see is that I hear a lot of stories of people who are like, okay, I submitted 900 applications and I'm working like crazy and I'm a machine and like I just anytime I see something, I'm submitting everything. Like that is the state that we're in, right? And I was coaching people through it, right? As I was building out my executive coaching practice. And then when I decided, hey, now I need to get back in the job, I surrendered my business building dream. I was like, I need financial stability. I got back in the job market myself. And although I knew it was tough and I was hearing the stories, it wasn't until I got back in it that I was like, wait, yeah, it's definitely tough. It's competitive, right? And like I have been on the other side, right? Like my trade is in the early careers recruiting space, like in a very harsh, selective space. I know how the hiring process goes, right? So I understand why it would be tough and competitive right now. That's what the market is, right? So I knew what my odds were, but at the same time, I was like, all right, I've earned my stripes. It should be tough, but it should be easy enough to land a role. And I was shell shocked by the amount of ghosting and rejection and silence. And that puts a strain. It triggers your self esteem of like, why am I not hearing back? It makes you feel really, it triggers you into survival mode. It has like a lot of emotional labor when you feel like this is out of your control, right? And yet you have to put in so much effort just to be seen. And then on the employer side, I had a friend who reached out, a new LinkedIn friend, Paul. He reached out and he was like, hey, Jill, like, great to connect. Like, I have a new software engineering role out. If you know anyone, please send it to them. Like, I would love for them to apply. I had just spoken to a student the other day that I was helping out who wanted that exact software engineering role. I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, okay. I was like, this is me paying it forward. So I was like, yeah. I was like, okay, great. So can you, I think I had to, I don't know. I think I had, oh no, I clicked on the link. And by the time I clicked on the link, 24 hours later, the link was broken, right? The role was down. It was 24 hours later. And I like literally messaged him. I was like, hey, like I was about to send it to him, but it looks like it's down, blah, blah, blah. He got back to me in all the humility and he was just like, hey, Jill, yeah, like 2,000 applications came through. Like in the first 24 hours, like I had to shut it down because it's really hard to manage. So sorry he wasn't able to apply in time. Operating in a way that depletes your system, operating in a way that demoralizes you only elongates the process and actually degenerates you in a way that isn't productive. And you really need your body on your side when you're going through this process. Like your body is what is fueling any of your potential outcomes of how the entire process is going. And I think people forget that like that actually comes first. And I will say that even though my month on the job process was tough, it was tough, but I landed a couple of great interviews with executive roles. I was interviewed for a global head position, and in the end, I wasn't the right fit. I didn't have the international experience, but because I was so unapologetic about what I do bring to the market, what I don't, I like didn't try to sugarcoat it. I was like, I don't have international experience, but if you need something built from the very like ground up, or if like you need me to do like an internship program or campus recruiting, like I'm your gal. And I was just so unapologetic with that. And so when they rejected me and they said, "Hey, you're not the right fit," I was like, I get it. I was like, it was gonna be a stretch opportunity if you put me into it. I was up for it, but I totally understand. And they were like, "But we love your early career strategy experience. Can you actually do a consulting project for us?" And I was like, oh, like the reframe with that, I was like, wait, okay, this is low key what I wanted. And because I was trying to build a talent strategy firm, right? But I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have the financial stability to make it happen. And then the way that this came in, I think it just opened my eyes to like, there are other ways that we can be working. And that I think that we need to be working with what the market and what the economy looks like right now. We're like, if we all sit around and wait for just the typical 9 to 5 rules, we might be waiting forever. And that's not quite what the market needs right now. If we think from the perspective of companies, they need to be operating with such economic discernment with any hire that they make. So rather than trying to be a generalist, rather than trying to compete with a million people, just position yourself in a way where like you can show up as an independent contractor to them. You can be like on a 1099 with them. You can be a fixed term employee, like what I ended up being, and working on a very specific project where you're just doing your specific niche, one specific project for 3 to 6 months to a year, whatever it is. And you can just hop around from contract to contract and not feel like you were beholden to just this like evil like endless like pit of no return job market that we're honestly in right now. And that's why I say, and then I'm going to wrap it up because I'm talking a lot, but that's why I say that it is really tough. And I think that you just need to be honest about that so that you go into the process being like, because it's tough, my body, my soul, like I'm anchoring my nervous system is going to be so locked in because I need to take care of myself because of what this process requires of me. And that is where the grace comes in. That's where the resilience comes in. Like resilience has benefits. Like it's that like resilience isn't this thing that we have to avoid, or resilience has benefits because grit makes you tough and then you get through it and then you end up having good results.
You build on it. I think of the job search like an emotional marathon, and we go into it with this sort of sprint mentality, and then we get burned out and burnt. And also to acknowledge that we as human beings, we are wired to be social, meaning rejection by others is death to our biology. Like if you're kicked out of the group, you're not getting the bison for dinner. So when you get a no, whether it's in the form of an actual no or this awful ghosting or the bottomless black pit of the ATS that my clients talk to me about, that can feel not just a rejection, but like a death of some sort. Also, the death of an identity. If you are somebody who very much self defines as ambitious and what you do for a living is a huge part of who you are, and you actually celebrate that, that's me. I am what I do in large part. Then, if you don't get a chance to do it because you keep getting told no, what are you left with? You have to rebuild a whole sense of self from what? From a scarcity place right now that you're all stressed. So all this to say, this is a terrible time, but in the terrible times, so much damn growth. I joke, I'm like, how much growth does anybody have from when things are going well? Maybe you could certainly learn from when things are going well, but in my experience, I really learn from when it is hard. When it is hard. Now, easier said than done. I want to talk about that fractional work for a quick second, because that's what you were mentioning with getting this gig opportunity as opposed to the full time. I know that just came about from your great impression that you left, but for somebody who wants to be more intentional with it, do you recommend that they pitch themselves as a 1099? I know everybody's situation is different, but for someone who's like, yeah, I think you're right. I think my industry and my role, people aren't getting full time anymore. They're getting more of this freelance fractional work. Where does that kind of person even start to put next steps together?
Honestly, there are so many different ways that people are doing it and trying it out. And I'm just going to speak for what I think my biggest breakthrough with this has been is that I feel like the best thing that we can all be doing, honestly, is like looking at what our best strengths are in the workplace, right? What the projects that we have always gravitated towards, what our, I always say like your Michael Jordan like level skills are, like those sort of things that you have always been known for, most successful for. Take that is your service, right? That is like the service that you can be packaging together. Take that and then get it on a landing page.
Okay.
Get it on a landing page, price it, package it, like use pricing pathology, use like pricing psychology and buyer psychology in the way that you package it, and then build a personal brand around that, right? Like a very simple like website or LinkedIn profile that you are just representing yourself in a way of, hey, this is I have X amount of years in the industry. Here are my best specialties. Here's what I really believe. Here's a little bit of personality and like my story of how it all came together, right? That's how you're presenting yourself. You list out like all of your past experience, and then you make it very clear that you have this landing page that shows how you work and how you can show up. And you show up in different ways, and you have different sort of packages of how you can work with companies. And I think that you can work with a company in a way of, all right, you apply on a job board. You'll see that a lot of companies are hiring for fixed term employees right now, contract roles. So that can be your operating process of like, all right, here's my process of I'm going to apply and pitch myself in this way. You can get creative of emailing a hiring manager and saying, hey, I know that you're looking for someone that is full time, but this job has been up for 2 months and I actually have this particular experience. And if you bring me on for a quarter, here's my rate. And then you can negotiate or whatever. I think that we give up so much control to the system and feel if we don't have a corporate entity backing us, that we don't have value or like a good or service to barter, right? But we do. We just need to package it and position it. So you need your story, right? Put yourself in situations where either you're pitching yourself by applying, you're getting creative, you're reaching out to people on LinkedIn, you're asking your network, you're just having conversations in your community, letting people know, hey guys, this is what I'm doing. Before the financial system existed, like it was just people just like bartering goods and services. It was just like people being like, hey, I'm the neighborhood witch. Like I heal people and everybody knows me because I have great service. And then when people come and then I'm taken care of, I have money, I have self resourced stability. And
Yeah.
I think it's really empowering when you just like deconstruct that, like, yeah, the job market sucks. However, and let's get creative. Let's not think that is the only way that we can be getting paid right now. Let's take all the skills and like half-baked ideas and package ourselves and have conversations and use technology to our advantage.
Back to basics. It's much more straightforward than people think. I totally agree. This, if I don't have a corporation backing me, therefore I don't exist, or like my work doesn't exist. And I had a client today actually say to me, part of me needs, I need a backup plan. I just have this part that's going, I need a backup plan. And I said, girl, you are the backup plan. It is you, which I know sounds a bit BS. So we had to then move it into some action steps. So speaking of action steps here, people who are listening, they're like, this all sounds good, but I am just burnt the F out. I am so tired. I'd love to have some good practices, but I got to dig myself out of a hole first. Where do they begin?
Yeah, 1,000%. So this is exactly where the energetic operating system comes in, because my first 18 months of entrepreneurship, when I was in my solopreneurship era before I launched my firm, so that was like I consider that as that was before I got that consulting opportunity, right? And I was struggling. Like I was broke. I was like trying to build my executive coaching practice. I had just left the industry and I was like, all right, like I was at the same time that I was trying to like build a practice and scale an empire, I was like burnt out. I was in stage 3 adrenal fatigue and really just like years of burnout that I had never fully recovered. So my body was starting to shut down. And even though I was so excited to build my company, my body was like not letting me rush a business model. It was like, take it easy. So at the same time that I was trying to figure out how to work with myself and earn money, my body was making it clear that if you don't take care of me and restore me, I'm not going to let you scale anything. You're not going to be able to market yourself. You're not going to be able to be in the right headspace to create content that speaks to people. Like you got to slow down. Are you familiar with chakras?
Minimally, but I don't know how my audience, I'd be curious if y'all want to comment or
Yeah.
tell us everything.
I'm always curious because we usually hear about chakras in yoga spaces and whatnot, or spiritual spaces. And I always like to bring it back down to like nuts and bolts, like science. So chakras are just energetic hubs in our body, and they're associated with certain body parts and hormonal systems, right? And at the same time, they're also associated with a particular executive leadership skill set, right? So I'm going to give you examples. There's nine chakras. The sacral chakra is right down low in your belly, right between your hips, and it is responsible for productivity. It is responsible for your creativity. It's responsible for money making, for sex, for creation, right? And when you think about it, it makes sense because it's associated with the uterus.
Yeah.
It's where we birth children, right? It's where we have sex, right? It's associated with those sort of themes, right? And when you think about the collective burnout that we are all in, that this country is in, you think about the collective burnout that women are in, right? The trauma that we carry, right? The stories that we carry in our uterus, right? From years of carrying children, the highs, the lows, the men, the stories, the lack of boundaries, the relationships, all of that, right? That we carry down there. It's like inherently burnt out for all of us, right? That's the sacral chakra, right? But at the same time, a healthy sacral chakra is responsible for productivity, creative output, momentum, desire, pleasure, money making, right? All these really desirable things that we want. Once you understand it from that, you're like, oh my God, I am doing anything to protect my sacral, right? Because if I am self resource leadership, right? If I don't have some entity, it is just me and my body. Obviously, I want to be as productive and creative and momentous and healthy and regenerative in that area if that's going to determine how well I am bartering my goods and services, right? All of a sudden, you become real unapologetic about protecting your energy and your boundaries and who is around you and protecting yourself like the asset that you are, because why wouldn't you? Like you are your only moneymaker. All that other shit like goes away and you start being selfish. And I mean that in the most loving way, because you being selfish in like a world where we have been like miseducated and programmed in a really sad way to believe that being selfish is wrong, as opposed to our divine duty to take care of ourselves and put our own oxygen mask on first so that we can be the best versions of ourselves and the most resource version for the next person. That's best for the planet. It's very simple stuff that we've just gotten away from. And I think it's just like a mindset reframe.
If the word selfish is triggering for people or man, I can't do that, it's self-led. Okay. You are leading yourself. Yourself is leading, is one other way to put it. What does that look like in practice? A small everyday thing that somebody could do, and also in the moment when they're in a situation where they have to apply for the job. It'd be nice to say, my boundary is not applying for any jobs. When you have to deal with the world, how do you make sure that you are putting your oxygen mask on first?
Totally. So I think it's like my go-to like recovery tools, which are, I think a lot of it comes down to boundaries, right? And it comes down to knowing what you need and just having a bank of options that you can deploy at any time when you start to notice that something's off and like you just need to get back on good kilter and good speed for you. So for example, that looks like rest and recovery cycles. I'm like going to get into like really simple stuff. It's like rest and recovery cycles. We act like we are supposed to operate, especially women. We're operating as if we are men who are operating on a 24-hour like hormonal system, right? Women are operating on a 28-day biological operating system. Like we are on a different planet in so many ways, but our systems and the way that we've all been working and like just the way that we've been like programmed to approach our days has been the absolute opposite of that. And our sacrals have been telling us that with how many of us are having infertility challenges and really tough challenging periods and fibroids, right? And all these ways that our sacrals are saying, why aren't you on my side? Why aren't you working in a way that we can both be on the same side? And it's to no one's fault of their own other than having I like to say, the period cycle literacy to take care of yourself first by working in a way where every single week you are operating your emotions, your hormonal system, your moods, your body, your physical state feels different every single week of your cycle, right? If you are on a typical period cycle, that means that your habits and your tasks and your work environment should be changing week to accommodate your body first. And it can be really simple things. And it was interesting when I went back into corporate after 18 months out, I was challenged because I was in stage 3 burnout, but at the same time, I was developing all of my teachings that I now teach in my firm. And I was actively developing like burnout recovery methods. And like my most challenging test subject was myself, right? And I was like really working on it, but I also had such flexibility because I had put my apartment in New York up for sublease. I like very humbly moved into my parents' house and they like took me in and I was able to experiment with all this stuff and I just had the chance to both recover my body in the ways that I'm talking about and try out this period cycle literacy, for example. But then when I got back into corporate, it was like, okay, can I do this in a corporate system? Can I like do this for me when I'm expected to get into office? And you can, like, as long as you're in a company that has somewhat flexibility with a couple days of hybrid, at least a month, you can do this for yourself like tomorrow. And I always tell people that start that tomorrow. If your cycle is irregular, like my sister has an incredibly like horrible irregular cycle, you just need to start working cyclically. And I say this to men as well. Anyone who doesn't bleed, if you're menopausal, you still follow the same sort of like cyclical working rhythm theory, but you just use the phases of the moon as your environmental anchors, like more as just like reminders and cues. Like you can set it up on your GCal as like a physical reminder of, oh, this week I start doing this, just to pace yourself throughout a month, just so that we're not all operating like this all the time, because we're not supposed to be. Like we need to be like with earth and grounded right now, especially right now with everything that's going on. Like we need to be like in our bodies and like taking care of our nervous systems first. And our nervous systems are our performance edge. So anyway, let me get back into some more tools. So rest and recovery cycles, right? That's an example of that. Sabbaticals. I was on an 18-month sabbatical from talent strategy before I came back into it. And with what I'm working with now, celibacy, right? At the same time, sex, but only if it is healthy, consensual, and deeply attuned to your desires and taboos, I say. Like it is like you need to be doing things that are so regenerative for your sacral if you really want this sort of like output and benefit and like productivity and creativity gains that you could be getting. Dancing. With dancing, it's with your hips and your legs. I'm a dancer, so I'm always like dancing. So it's dancing. I have ADHD. So if you're neurodivergent, you need productivity frameworks that are neurodivergent friendly. I always direct people to the Todoist.
I want to talk about boundaries for a second because that's a word that's come up a few times with you, and it's a great way to protect your energy. What are some common traps, energy traps that you've seen your clients fall into, slash, you probably fell into yourself during the job search process? And then how do you set boundaries? And oftentimes, I think these set boundaries are probably with yourself more than anybody else. So that's a common misconception. Boundaries inherently have to be you versus someone else. No, oftentimes it's actually just you versus yourself. So, yeah, boundaries in the job search. Tell me, what are your thoughts about that and how to put those into practice?
For sure. I think that comes down to knowing what you need, right? So if we think about all those tools that I just mentioned, and then when you feel off, it's just knowing, yeah, sometimes you're going to need to communicate with someone like, hey, I need to turn in early tonight, or I need to like take a night where I'm sleeping in a different room tonight, or I need to take a weekend to myself, or I need to wake up early. I need to do whatever I need to do. I need to show up for me. And you just communicate that proactively and with love. And I think a lot of times we don't do that and we feel like we can't ask for what we need when really all we need to do is, or the first step that we need to do is we don't need to spend too much time pathologizing it, right? Because it's really easy to do that. And that's important in some ways, right? But also you just need to know how to communicate it. So it's know what you need and don't be afraid to proactively say it and just say it nicely. I always say, type it into ChatGPT if you need to find the words for it. We can script things very quickly. Like we can move quickly when we do these things. Yeah. So I think you need to show up for you, especially when it comes to you need to show up and keep up the best stamina possible when you go through the process. So that's why it's important in the job search process. And you need to do things like for your emotional health as well with the like emotional labor. Sometimes you might need to like go in your room and put on a screamo song and get out all your feelings and frustrations, or like journal or rip something up and go to a smash room. Or I'm always like singing and dancing and whatever way to release all the emotions from like that keeps you healthy, and that also gives you more energy that actually helps you show up better to the interview the next day. Like you keep your confidence up. And I think that's why it's important. Like the boundaries are gifts to yourself constantly. And I think once you get to the point of, and I will admit, I got to the point of being so selfish with boundaries, like in a really unapologetic, radical way that I know pissed a lot of people off, but was also really groundbreaking for me because I was such a people pleaser. And also, I managed a huge team and just very close friends, close family, all of that. But when it finally wore on my body, I was just like, Jill first, like I was just boundaries
There
for
was no
so
choice. There was
I had
no
no
choice.
it was exactly. It was survival. And I was like, whoever's left on the other side of this, I know is meant to be with me on this journey and understands and trusts that I have to choose me in this moment. I started to very quickly realize was like a gift to myself. Just this act of like self-love that it just ended up naturally being. And that warmed my heart again. And then all of a sudden, I was ready to communicate nicely with people again and from an emotionally regulated place again. And I was ready to rebuild relationships and build new relationships and operate in a new reality. But that took like that 2 year process, right? And that's why I say that solopreneurship was like the best spiritual endurance training camp that I didn't know that I needed in my career, because that whole experience built that in me. And I needed that before I launched a firm. And I think I was trying to put the cart before the horse before. Like I was not financially stable. I had not invested in the right resources to know how to build the properly. I had not done enough market research most recently to know what the market really needed. And that was what my time back in corporate
Yeah.
unlocked for me. And I was like, oh, I can package things that way. So I think that's why we all just need to be nimble. Take what you need. It's get it done however you got to get it done. And if you decide that like your ideal is like a 9 to 5 and you want to like milk that till the cows come home, do that. Great. Capitalize on that. I recommend at the same time that everyone starts just preparing themselves with having the tools to be able to have a side hustle at the same time and put their skills on a landing page and just be able to provide for yourself on the fly and stay ready, because are these systems not crumbling down? We all have to look out for ourselves. So that's where I think the boundaries come in, because you have to have discipline, right? And I'm so naughty with myself, right? So I don't always like I was in dance school growing up, like my whole life, ballet, tap, at like 5 days a week, right? I know discipline, right? But I also have ADHD and I'm like a woman and blah. Sometimes discipline sounds really unsexy and boring and
Or constraining, or
sorry.
constraining. That's negative.
Yeah, exactly. And I think when I was in adrenal fatigue, I was in really deep dopamine burnout. And with dopamine burnout and with ADHD burnout, like your dopamine receptors aren't functioning properly. So like my ability to have like motivation was like gone. And like for an Ivy League graduated, like crazy in her career woman to lose all motivation to work, like I would be laying in bed and being like, what's the point
Yeah.
of
Mhm.
work?
I have
Like
the
I was like,
confidence. Yep.
yeah, like my brain was gone. So I say that because like for me to build discipline in myself to be able to show up to the job market in the way that I did,
Yeah.
which was really just my body saying, Jill, you have recovered from burnout. You're ready to build again. That was your training wheels of getting back on the job market, was like getting your body ready to work in corporate again and like work again and like eventually launch your business when you like did the right steps and you got the experience you needed.
You needed to build the foundation before you could build the house. And the
Yeah.
house is going to look different for everybody, right? Your house is a hybrid company and corporate clients, or now full-time company. Somebody else's house might be the full-time job search to a full-time job, but the foundation is always the same, which is it's your body and how you manage your energy, and energy as it manifests through your emotions, through your physicality, how you receive it, how you alchemize it. Nobody gets a pass on that. And also, a lot of this stuff is short term versus long term. So, short term would be saying yes to everything or saying no to yourself. That's a short term decision because you don't want to feel the pain associated with setting that boundary. But now you're making a long term sacrifice, a long term energetic sacrifice. So, I think it's about meeting yourself in the moment and putting yourself first. But sometimes that means actually doing a hard thing, like setting a boundary. However, you could do it with love. I think that's your tagline, should be with love for a lot of stuff, because I love the juxtaposition of sometimes it's like tough situation, but with love. And a lot of this is
Right.
carrying contradictions in both hands. That's so much of why this work is fascinating, but also difficult, because you are navigating multiple things that can present what at least first appears to be a contradiction. Putting yourself first and being able to show up for others, doing something for your bank account and for your soul. Oh man, and it's also ever evolving. Just at that 28-day period alone, what you figured out last week that worked for you isn't necessarily even what's going to work for this week. But I think instead of getting bogged down in the exhaustion of the work, to see ourselves as a continuous project, the most interesting, greatest creative project ever of experimentation. And with that, we need guides, we need perspectives, we need the books, we need the tools. Stay curious, everybody out there. If anything you take from this is read more, dig more into it, learn more, practice more, can experiment more. You will find something that works, and then you will build upon it. And I guess be open to whatever the house ends up looking like for you. Last words of wisdom, Jill, for us here, things that you wish you could get on a megaphone and just tell job seekers from your own personal experience and working with clients, and of course, how to become your client.
Choose your theme song. So, whatever song is going to get you up out of bed every day, and maybe you need to change it with the season. At certain times, mine was All Stars by Smash Mouth. At other times, it was like Just Got Paid, Friday Night, like that oldie song. That's my mom's favorite. Other times, it's like Energy by Disclosure. Like, whatever your theme song is, just choose it and motivate yourself through that. I wrote a comment on someone's content on LinkedIn. So, going back to LinkedIn,
Yes.
LinkedIn would be great like insight and motivation if you like curate your feed with what you like. So I've been curating my feed lately. That's how I found you. So curate your feed, take control of your feed. You'll like LinkedIn better. I recommend that with all social media tools. Go into your own world with social media. But anyway, someone posted about how, I don't know what the post was about, but whatever the conversation was about was sometimes when you need to build confidence in something, You just need to do, right? Like you just need to take the step and I don't know, you need to trust fall a little bit to build the confidence. And that can be hard when your ego's bruised, right? That can be hard when you're starting to question your worth and your sanity and like your ego's crushed. And that's like what the job process like makes you feel like. It can be like demoralized. So that's why I say choose the song that's going to get you up out of bed, right? Choose the song that is going to like get your mind operating and like seeing things from the right POV for whatever moment of the day that you need. Like maybe it's right before the interview, maybe it's before you are sitting down like with your family and you want to be in the right headspace. Like whenever you need it, choose it, use it. So that's what I would recommend. And then to get in touch to work with me. So I work with people in a couple of different ways. I work with companies and teams for Gen Z talent strategy. So think internship programs and curriculums for a lot of the things that we just discussed, for talent operating systems and employer branding. And then I work with individuals and leaders. As an executive coach, I work with people for peak energetic performance, personal branding and visibility, and for career pivots.
This is great. I'm loving the new direction I'm finding coaching going into that's much more holistic. It doesn't put our bank accounts and our bodies in separate silos. They all go together and we have to fuel it. Like the buck stops with us, not with our employer. It is we are our own backup. And so getting tools that you share today, I think are invaluable for everybody. And I love using ourselves as examples. You have lived it. So you know that this stuff, it works.
It works. It works. It can be fun, like it can be pleasurable, and it's being like nice to yourself. It's just, I think it's just like reframing things and just doing things differently, but I think that we deserve it.
Let's talk about something that's making so many of you want to throw your laptop out the window, which is this question I keep getting. I'm having trouble connecting with the interviewer virtually. I feel like some of my magic is being lost via Zoom. First of all, I see you. This is a real problem. Your magic is not imaginary. And yes, something is getting lost in translation through that screen. But here's what I'm going to tell you. The problem isn't that virtual interviews suck. The problem is that you're still trying to interview instead of pitch. By the end of this segment, you're going to know exactly how to turn that camera into your secret weapon for connection. Not fake connection, real, genuine human connection, the kind that makes them forget that you're not in the room. And by the way, I know you want that job, but the goal of the interview ultimately should be to actually just make a good networking connection because you never know where they're going to go and they might just take you with them. So let's acknowledge what's actually happening here. In person, you can feel the energy in the room. You can read micro expressions. You can literally lean in when you want to emphasize something. But on Zoom, you're just a floating head in a tiny box competing with their Slack notifications. Maybe what's happening now to me. But here's the thing, and pay attention because this is important. They're feeling the same disconnect that you are. They're also missing that human energy. They're tired of staring at screens all day. And so when you show up differently, when you bring presence through that camera, you become the person who made their day better. And that's memorable. And that's hireable. Here's where most people lose their magic virtually. They're waiting for their personality to somehow shine through a screen. They're hoping the interviewer will just get how awesome they are. Nope, it's not happening. You got to tell them exactly what to pay attention to. Don't make them guess your value while they're also trying to figure out if you're on mute. Instead of just launching into your story, how about you try this? Quote, let me tell you about a situation that really shows how I solve customer service problems. And I think you'll see exactly why this matters for what you're dealing with here. All right, so see what I did there? I told them what's coming and why they should care. On Zoom, this kind of clear communication is your lifeline. Now let's talk about your presence, your authentic energy. That magic you're talking about, yeah, it's still there, but you just got to amplify it for the camera. Your energy needs to be probably about 20% bigger than normal. Now, I'm not saying be fake or manic. I'm just saying if your natural presence is calm and thoughtful, you need to be intentionally calm and thoughtful. Because the camera flattens everything, you need to compensate. So, use your hands. I know it feels weird, but Gesture like you're talking to someone across a coffee table, not like you're trapped in a tiny box, okay? It makes you look more dynamic and confident. And this is huge. Make eye contact with the camera, not the screen. I know that's unnatural, which means you got to practice this. Fortunately, we're on camera all the time with people now, so you got a lot of room to practice. If you need help with this, make a post-it note with a little arrow pointing to the camera. It looks to them like you are looking down at them or off to the side, whereas when you look at the camera on your computer, you're looking directly into their eyes. The camera is the eyes. Now, here's where most people really lose their magic. They forget they're talking to a human being. They start performing for the technology instead of connecting through it. Try this. Before every answer, take a micro pause and remind yourself, I'm talking to Sarah, or whoever the interviewer is. Not to the camera, not to the screen, but to Sarah, who has real business problems that you can solve. Use their name more than you might in person. For example, Sarah, that's exactly why I'm excited about this role. Or Sarah, I'm curious how your team typically handles that challenge. It creates intimacy that the camera normally, I'm not a huge fan of doing that in person. I find it patronizing, but because the camera adds this extra blocker of a connection, adding in their name helps bring that intimacy back. Also, ask them questions. Don't wait until the end when they go, do you have any questions for me? After you tell a story about how you solved a problem, then ask them, quote, I'm curious, how does your team currently handle situations like this? This flips the dynamic from an interview to a conversation, from evaluation to collaboration. Okay, some quick technical stuff that actually impacts connection. Your camera, it should be eye level. So if they are looking down at you, you immediately seem less powerful. So stack some books under your laptop if you need to. We want the camera higher. Lighting, it matters more than you think. You want light hitting your face, not backlighting you. And a simple ring light or sitting near a window works. I prefer natural light. I have no ring light. This is all from the window. And for the love of all that's holy, please test your tech beforehand. Nothing kills your confidence. Can you hear me? How about now? Is my screen sharing working? But if it does happen, you can laugh it off because shit happens. But here's what most people don't realize, that good audio is more important than good video. If they can hear you correctly, they'll connect with you more than if you look perfect but sound like you're underwater. But here's the real magic. You've got to stop thinking about what virtual interviews take away and start thinking about what they give you. Think about it like this. You're not a job seeker hoping they like you. No. You, my friend, are a business owner pitching a solution to their problems. And your business, the business of you, is going to make them money. That perspective shift changes everything because now you're not trying to perform your personality through a screen. You're demonstrating how you solve business problems. And that actually translates better virtually than in-person small talk ever could. You get to control your environment completely. You can have your notes strategically placed where only you see them. You can wear your power blazer, but with comfy pants. You can sit in a space that makes you feel most confident. And most importantly, you can be more intentional with every single word because you're not managing all the in-person variables. They're not going to remember everything that you said or even most of it, but they will remember how you made them feel. So when you show up with owned energy, not performing confidence, but actually embodying it, they will feel that through the screen. When you ask thoughtful questions about their real challenges, they're going to feel heard. And when you tell a specific story about solving a similar problem, they'll feel hopeful. Virtual interviews are not worse than in person. They're different. And different can be your advantage if you know how to use it. Your magic isn't lost. It just needs to be translated. And now you know how to do that translation. So stop hoping your personality will shine through and start strategically demonstrating your value. Stop waiting for connection to happen naturally. Start creating it intentionally. The goal isn't to recreate in-person energy through a screen. The goal is to create a new kind of connection that's just as powerful and maybe even more powerful because it's so intentional. Some of my clients tell me they actually prefer virtual interviews now because they feel more in control of their energy and their message. And you can get there too. So if this helped you, hit that like button, subscribe for more real talk about interviews and job searching. Drop a comment telling me your biggest virtual interview challenge. I read every single one. And remember, you're not interviewing for their approval. You're demonstrating how you solve their problems. The camera doesn't change that. Now go get paid. All right, we covered a ton of ground today, literally higher ground. And I want you to walk away with 3 key takeaways. First, AI is not the career killer that everyone thinks it is. It's creating more opportunities it's destroying, but only for people who see it's coming and position themselves strategically. So whether you go the trust route, integration route, or taste route, pick your lane now and start building expertise today. Second, your well-being during the job search is not optional. It's strategic. So thank you, Jillian Knowles, for reminding us that we cannot and should not separate our bodies from our bank accounts. Because when you're running on empty, you simply cannot show up as a solution to anyone's problems, least of all your own. So choose your theme song, set your boundaries, and remember that taking care of yourself isn't selfish, it's smart business. And finally, your virtual interview struggles are real, but they're solvable. Stop trying to recreate in-person magic and start creating intentional digital connection. Remember, you're not interviewing for approval, you're pitching solutions to their problems. Look, the job market is tough right now, and I'm not going to sugarcoat that. But tough markets create opportunities for people who are willing to adapt, who invest in themselves, and who show up differently than everyone else. Don't forget to hit subscribe as well as that notification bell, ding, 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 so you're updated on all upcoming videos. This is Higher Ground, where we give you hope and help behind the headlines. I'm Claire Wasserman. Keep pushing forward, keep investing in yourself, and I'll see you next time. Now go get paid.